Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into some seriously dark stuff. We're talking about witches in the 1400s. It's spooky season every season on my channel, right? So grab your crystals, light your black flame candle, whatever you do, because this is gonna be intense. We're gonna look at all the crazy stuff people believed about witches back then, the trials, the burnings, the whole 9 yards. It's gonna be dark, it's gonna be twisted, and you know you love it. Let's do this thing. Okay, so picture this. It's the 1400s, right? Life is tough, and the world is a mysterious place filled with unknowns. People are living in small villages, working hard just to get by. The streets are bustling with merchants, farmers, and craftsmen, all trying to make a living. But beneath this seemingly normal life, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. The world is a scary place. At night, the forests are dark and foreboding, filled with the sounds of unknown creatures. The towns, though bustling by day, become eerie and silent as the sun sets. People huddle in their homes, wary of the dangers that lurk in the shadows. People are dying from diseases they don't understand, crops are failing, and everyone's kind of freaking out. Imagine living in a time when a simple illness could wipe out entire families, and there's no explanation for why it's happening. The fear of the unknown is palpable, and it drives people to look for answers, any answers. Enter witchcraft. It's like the perfect scapegoat, a way to explain all the bad stuff happening. When things go wrong, people need someone or something to blame. Witchcraft becomes the go-to explanation for all the misfortunes. Accusations fly, and soon, trials and executions become a grim reality. See, back then, people believed in magic. Really believed. Magic wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a part of everyday life. People thought that spells and rituals could influence the world around them. They believed that magic could bring good fortune or disaster depending on who wielded it. They thought witches could control the weather, make you sick, even kill you with a curse. Imagine the power and fear that such beliefs could instill. A bad storm, a sudden illness, or a failed harvest could all be attributed to the malevolent actions of a witch. The fear of witchcraft was pervasive and deeply ingrained in the culture, and the craziest part? Sometimes these witches were just healers using herbs and stuff. In a time before modern medicine, people relied on herbal remedies and traditional practices to treat illnesses. These healers, often women, were knowledgeable about the natural world and its healing properties, but their skills and knowledge made them targets. But in a world where everyone's scared, it's easy to see how things got twisted. Fear and ignorance can lead to dangerous conclusions. The line between healer and witch became blurred, and innocent people were caught in the crossfire. The hysteria spread, and soon, the fear of witchcraft consumed entire communities. It's a dark chapter in history, but one that shows how fear can shape our perceptions and actions. Let's be real, guys. Being a woman in the 1400s was tough. You were expected to be quiet, submissive, basically a shadow, and if you dared to be different, forget it. You were basically asking to be called a witch. Midwives, witches, herbalists, witches. Women who lived alone and liked cats a little too much, you guessed it. Witches. It's like society was looking for any excuse to put women in their place. And if that meant accusing them of witchcraft and burning them at the stake, well, that's just how they rolled. It's just how. Okay, so the witch trials. Imagine living in a time where superstition ruled over reason, and fear dictated justice. It was a period when the mere whisper of an accusation could seal your fate. Talk about a messed up chapter in history. The paranoia was so intense that communities turned against each other and no one was safe from suspicion. Basically, if someone even accused you of being a witch, you were screwed. It didn't matter if you were innocent, the accusation alone was enough to ruin your life. There were these crazy tests they would do, like the swimming test. The logic was twisted. They believed that water, being pure, would reject the body of a witch. They'd tie you up and throw you in a lake. If you floated, it was seen as proof that you had renounced your baptism and were in league with the devil. If you floated, you were a witch. But here's the catch. If you sank and drowned, you were considered innocent. It was a lose-lose situation. If you drowned, well, at least you weren't a witch. But of course you were dead, so it didn't really help you much. And the torture? Don't even get me started. The methods they used were beyond brutal, designed to break the spirit and force confessions. They'd use thumbscrews, the rack, all sorts of horrible things to get you to confess. The pain was unimaginable, and many would say anything just to make it stop. And if you didn't, well, let's just say things didn't end well. Execution was often the final grim chapter in this terrifying ordeal. Whether it was burning at the stake or hanging, the end was always tragic. Chapter 4: Misconceptions Busting Witchy Myths. So, here's the thing about witches in the 1400s, a lot of what people believed was total BS. Like, they thought witches had these demonic powers, could fly on broomsticks, and had sex with the devil. I mean, come on, it's like a bad horror movie, right? But that's the thing about fear, it makes people believe anything. And when you combine fear with ignorance, you get some seriously messed up stuff. Chapter 5: Famous Witches, the OG Queens of Darkness. Okay, so even though being called a witch back then was like the worst thing ever, there were some seriously badass women who embraced the title, like Joan of Arc. Anyone? She heard voices, claimed to have visions, and led an army to victory. Talk about a boss witch. And then there's Mother Shipton, this legendary English soothsayer. She was known for her spot-on predictions, and people were both terrified and in awe of her. These women were powerful, independent, and definitely ahead of their time. Title, spells, and rituals. What were they really up to? So, when we think of witches, we think of spells and rituals, right? And yeah, in the 1400s, there were definitely people dabbling in that stuff. But it wasn't always about summoning demons or cursing your enemies. Sometimes it was about healing the sick, finding love, or just trying to make life a little bit better. People used herbs, charms, and rituals to try and influence the world around them. It was their way of connecting with something bigger than themselves. Chapter 7: Church Persecution, the Church versus Witches. Okay, so we can't talk about witches in the 1400s without talking about the church. Because, let's be real, they were kind of obsessed. The church saw witches as a threat to their power, and they were determined to wipe them out. They spread propaganda, demonized pagan beliefs, and basically turned everyone against anyone who was even remotely different. It was a dark time for anyone who didn't fit in with the church's narrow view of the world. Okay, so let's talk about the witchy aesthetic for a sec. Because, let's be real, it's kind of iconic. Black cats, broomsticks, pointy hats, these are all symbols that have become synonymous with witches. But back in the 1400s, these things had a much deeper meaning. The broom, for example, was associated with female power and fertility. And the black cat, well, that was just a familiar, a spiritual companion. Okay guys, this is where things get really dark. Because the punishments for witchcraft in the 1400s were brutal, to say the least. We're talking torture, imprisonment, and of course the infamous burning at the stake. Can you imagine being accused of something you didn't do and then being burned alive? It's horrifying. And the saddest part is that many of the people accused were completely innocent. So even though the witch hunts are a dark chapter in history, they've left an undeniable mark on our culture. I mean, think about it. We still dress up as witches for Halloween, we still tell stories about them, and we're still fascinated by their power. Maybe it's because, deep down, we all crave a little magic in our lives. Or maybe it's because the story of the witch is a story of rebellion, of standing up for what you believe in, even when the whole world is against you. Oh my god, you guys, we just went deep into the world of 1400s witchcraft. It's like stepping into a time machine and landing in a world where fear and superstition ruled the day. The manuscripts we looked at were filled with spells, potions, and rituals that people genuinely believed could control the forces of nature. It's both fascinating and chilling to think about how these beliefs shaped their lives. I'm like, emotionally drained but also kind of obsessed. The depth of detail in these historical documents is mind-blowing. You can almost feel the weight of the centuries-old fear and the desperation of people trying to make sense of the world around them. It's a stark reminder of how far we've come, but also how much we still have to learn from the past. It's crazy how much things have changed, but also how some things stay the same. The landscapes have evolved, cities have grown, and technology has advanced beyond their wildest dreams, yet the core of human nature remains unchanged. We still seek answers to the unknown, and we still have our own modern-day superstitions and fears, like people are still afraid of what they don't understand, and they're still quick to judge. Back then, it was witches and sorcery. Today, it might be different beliefs or lifestyles. The fear of the unknown continues to drive people to make hasty judgments and sometimes even harmful decisions. It's a sobering thought, but also a call to be more understanding and open-minded. But hey, at least we're not burning people at the stake anymore, right? Those dark times are behind us and we've made significant progress in human rights and justice. It's important to remember these grim parts of history so we don't repeat them. The witch trials serve as a powerful reminder of the dangers of mass hysteria and the importance of due process. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been a wild ride through history, and I hope it sparked some curiosity and maybe even a little bit of that spooky fascination we all love. History isn't just about dates and events, it's about the stories of real people who lived through incredible times. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more spooky content. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep bringing you these deep dives into the eerie and mysterious corners of our past. And as always, stay creepy, keep exploring the unknown, questioning the past, and embracing the spooky side of life. Until next time, my friends, stay curious and stay spooky.